Them.
Okay. All right, we're going live. Shooting from the hip. Hey, team, what's happening? Thanks so much for joining us tonight here at Blueprint to Blue Chip. What we have is a webinar. Aaron has been very generous. The adults are the we're going live. Shooting from the hip. Hey, team, what's happening? Thanks so much for joining us tonight here at Blueprint to Blue Chip. What
Aaron,
we have is a webinar. Aaron has been very generous. The adults are the we're going live. Okay.
Keep going.
All right. Well, good. We're good to go. All right. Thanks so much for joining us, team. Tonight we have three incredible coaches. I'm just going to mention their names briefly. I'm going to give them an opportunity to tell you a little bit about who they are. Aaron put together this slide. It's called "The Adults Are the Environment." It's a very generous description. What we've heard from a lot of coaches, not necessarily these three coaches, is that parents are the problem. And what we mean by that is, in our experience, we have a lot of parents that we deal with, Aaron and I at Blueprint, where parents live vicariously through their athletes. And Aaron and I have learned quite quickly, as well as these coaches will add, is that if it's the parent's dream, it's going to fizzle out pretty quick. So what we want to do is build an environment to where we support the student athlete through coaches, which is our panel right now, and through working with Aaron and myself to make sure that the coaches are set up for success, the parents are set up for success, as well as the student athlete. So I'm going to get right into it and to turn it over to our first coach. We have Preston Ingram. Preston, thanks so much for joining us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'll move on to Chip and follow up with Tim.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on. I'm excited about being here and have this opportunity to kind of discuss some different topics. But Preston Ingram, been coaching for 30 years, last 22 years collegiately, 7 years as a head coach. Been coach of the year, two-time Hoop Dirt coach of the week. Was a national champion as a player, and had a lot of success coaching a lot of different places. In a 22-year stint, was blessed to be able to be part of 14 championships.
Wow.
That was conference championships, conference tournament championships, Final Four runs, et cetera. And so been blessed to be able to say that I've been to do a lot in a short amount of time coaching collegiate basketball and just being around really good people. That's what it really comes down to, is just being around really good people and making sure that you're around great players, good assistants, great head coaches, amazing administrations throughout my time on that part.
Awesome. Another thing I want to share with the audience is we've had all three of these gentlemen on our podcast, and we've gotten to know them quite well. So we consider all three of them not just colleagues, but also friends. Chip, I'm going to turn it over to you. Chip, the floor is yours. Tell us a little bit about you, your history, and what coaching means to you, and anything else that we need to know.
Well, I appreciate being on tonight. Always a pleasure talking with everyone. My name's Chip Raytano. I've been coaching for 37 years at the high school or college level. The last 12 years, I've been the head women's basketball coach at Camden County College in New Jersey. The last 10 of those years, I've also been their women's softball coach as well. Don't really like to brag about myself, so I'll make it quick. In my 37 years, I've been a head coach for 2.5 decades, and I have over 760 wins. I've been 4-time high school coach of the year, 2-time college coach of the year. But I have a lot of good people around me, and that's really where the success comes from.
Awesome. Chip, we appreciate it. Thanks so much, Coach. And from here, we're going to turn it over to our anchor man, Tim. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, Tim Kane. I coached for 24 seasons, one as a head coach when I was high school 9th grade. And first game I got a tech because I didn't put the starters in. So I learned real quick to start doing that. It was a nice lesson into it. But coached high school for a year, and then 24 years of college basketball from Division III, Division II, all the way up to Division I into the SEC is where I was at my last job. Fortunate to win a lot of championships, coach some great players, national player of the years. Obviously number 2 pick in the NBA draft in Ja Morant, coached him, and then came to LSU after that. And, been very fortunate to be around great coaches. I got to coach with Mike Jarvis. I got to coach with Mark Byington, who's now at Vanderbilt. I was an assistant for him at Georgia Southern. Then Matt McMahon, who I was an assistant with at Murray State and at LSU. So I was very blessed to coach with a lot of great coaches in my career. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Awesome. Tim, it's a pleasure to have you join us. Thanks so much. Chip, you as well as Preston. So one of the very first questions I'm going to get into is Aaron and I have started a webinar outside of this one, but it's going to bleed right into this one. Often we're asked by athletes and parents, what does it take to get to the pros? And I'm going to ask that question to you guys because our answer is we don't really have a secret sauce or a magic bullet. All we can really tell you is what it doesn't take, and that is cutting corners, looking for shortcuts, or checking a box. And we just tell them that you have to embrace the process. Preston, what are your thoughts? How would you answer that? What does it take for a young athlete to get to the pros?
Yeah, well, one, I think that a lot of it's a God-given talent that a lot of players have right from the very beginning. I mean, like, it's about the makeup of mom and dad and the skill set of the talent that they have. It's and it's God. I think, as coaches, well, I say this all the time. I don't know of a coach ever made a pro. That's up to between mom, dad, and God. It's
right.
Our job as coaches is to make sure that we just navigate the waters to put them in positions to be able to hone into their skill set, really kind of polish up the skill set of, if you will, making sure. And then also too, I think a lot of times is you can have a really talented player that's not going to make it because he doesn't know how to be consistent under pressure.
Right.
I think that's a bigger thing about that is that how they can handle the mental side of what it's going to take on the day-to-day avenues. You said this kind of, short span there, but, not cutting a corner and understand the consistency of being consistent of what it's going to take on a daily basis. I mean, when you get to the level of being pros, and I've been blessed around a lot of pros and NBA guys around my time. And, the one thing I always see those guys it's the multiple thing of they're honing in on their polishing of their skill set of what they do. Because when they get to a professional level, everybody's a pro. You're
right.
A pro to be a pro. But the biggest thing about everything of this, and this is one thing that was really stick to me big, is that if you want to be a pro, it's not about being a pro unless you're being a professional about what you're doing.
Right.
You have to be a professional on a daily basis. And meaning being a professional is, I think a lot of times as parents, what we do is that we tell our kids what to do. And mainly we do what to do all the time as parents. But when they get to a certain point, it's learning how to do the how, why, and when, and where. And I think as coaches, that's what I kind of stick myself on is I'm not going to tell you what to do all the time, but I'm going to tell you the how, why, and where, and that you need to be able to do these things on a consistent basis. If you're going to wake up at a certain time and be able to get that done, nobody's going to hold your hand when it's time to be a pro.
Right.
But it's not making excuses, making sure that you understand it, make sure you're performing when you're tired, and just being comfortable by being uncomfortable. Right. I think that's a lot of things. And you got to be able to love it. If you don't love it, and you're not going to do it on the daily habit, it's not really going to end up coming down. But I'm a firm believer. I think the pros they're born, to be a professional athlete. There's certain traits that just the average kid is not just going to have on that part. But also too, I also think that you can make yourself to be a pro. And you see this constantly all the time is by the kids that understand sleep, nutrition, recovery, film session, accountability, coachability, being on time, taking care of the bodies, and just being relentless work ethic on a daily basis in order to make sure they're putting themselves in position to become a professional.
Right on. Chip, you have an opportunity to coach a lot of women's basketball, which is awesome for this platform. What is it going to take for a young lady to make it to the pros, in your opinion, your experience?
Well, I mean, obviously, I agree with a lot of what Preston said, but the opportunities are not as plentiful for the women, as it is for the men. Unfortunately, not yet, at least. But it's a mindset. It's wanting to be out there every day, grinding and putting in the work. But it's kind of like Preston said, you're born with it. It's not that you can't grow into being a professional, but there's something inside of you that is going to drive you every day to step out on that court and work hard, make sure you're eating right, working hard, doing what you have to do in the weight room. So it's not just about your craft, it's everything that goes into it as well. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to coach 6 women that have gone on to play professionally, and they were just amazing from day one. The work ethic and their mindset on how they approached every day, that routine never really wavered. And, it's a credit to them more than anything else. I mean, good coaching helps, but I don't take any credit for the work that they put in, because that really comes from within.
Yeah, it sounds like consistency and discipline is definitely the foundation. Tim, you told us earlier that you actually coached a future NBA player. What separated him from the other athletes, and what does it take to get to the next level?
Yeah, he competes at everything he did. He didn't lose. Like, you hear about the Michael Jordans, you hear about John Stockton, Karl Malone. I remember the John Stockton, they said never lost a line drill. They said the same about Michael Jordan. Ja was the exact same. He wanted to win at everything he did. From the first moment he got on campus, he's 150 pounds, about 6'1". But the one thing that dude wanted to do, he wanted to win every time we played pickup. And being a competitor is what separated him. And then obviously the athletic ability, and he worked on that, but obviously there was some God-given talent there, which, I mean, both coaches has talked about. I think too many parents, like, I want my kid's a pro, or as we all know, when you're sitting there like, oh, that kid's a pro. Like, no, he's not. Yes, he's talented. He has the attributes. He might be 6'9", and he's got guard skills, but does he have all the stuff off the court? Does he have the support? Does he do the right things? There's a lot of guys that are super talented that everyone thought were going to the NBA that no one's ever heard of again, that were in the McDonald's All-American game. And it could be injuries, it could be other things, but a lot of it is that work ethic. And do they consistently, as you've talked about, everyone has, put in the work? And I think, I mean, I've got at least 20 guys right now playing overseas, obviously in the NBA G League, that I've coached in the last probably 6 years. And all the guys that truly succeed are the ones that buckle down and they put in the work and they're consistent every single day. The ones that don't, and were more talented than some of those guys, they're back home doing nothing. Or they went and got a job because they weren't willing to sacrifice and put in the time. And I think for parents, quit worrying about being a pro. Be the best you are on the team you're on right now. And if you can keep doing that and you make those steps to be the best player at any level, and you keep doing that, that's when you become a pro. And then you become a pro in life because you're used to putting in the work and having that discipline that a lot of people don't have.
Bingo. Chip, let's go to you on this next question. And all three of you, I know that you've all seen athletes that have more talent than they know what to do with, but they're uncoachable. Chip, how do you deal with an athlete who is uncoachable?
No, I mean, I spend a lot of time talking to my players one-on-one, more about the mindset and the approach and how they need to, on a daily basis, work closely with their coaches, with their teammates, how to be a good teammate, how to be coachable. But a lot of that starts when they're younger. By the time they get to me at the college level, a lot of that has already been ingrained. Nobody has stopped them from, having that attitude. Everybody's telling them how great they are and, how far they're going to go. And then I have to be the bad guy and try to reel them back in a little bit. But I mean, I think that I've been fortunate enough with having those conversations that they understand, what direction they need to go in. And when you tell them the truth and you're upfront with them, I think they appreciate that most of the time. I mean, I'm not going to say everybody, but the majority of the kids that I've dealt with in those situations have really turned around because they wanted that. They wanted to get better. They wanted to be the best version of themselves. They wanted to be a good teammate, coachable, because they wanted to get to the next level.
Sure. Preston, how do you deal with an athlete who has a God-given amount of talent but is just uncoachable?
Well, the first thing of it is that you got to really decide whether or not you want to tolerate it or not.
Yeah.
And whether or not, if the coach really doesn't have a player problem, but is it a standard problem? Is a player really going to have a situation where they're just constantly going on? Like, I'm a probably a fourth, fifth chance kind of guy myself. So I have a tendency to try to give opportunity to be to teach them and be to go, because what you don't know is what else they're hearing outside of it, of what the walls you have. You only have really a 10% time with the kid. What they're leading on outside of that is really what's dictating their overall attitude to what you're getting or not getting. I think that's probably the biggest hurdle for any coach to be able to get is you're fighting 15, 16 different fights just to make sure that player is getting where that player should be at. And I think a lot of times you try to control that environment by swinging that controller down, lot of times when you're at, a higher level where Tim was at in the SEC, like you can kind of shrink that box down and be able to really kind of put your hands with them. When you're on the lower level, it's kind of harder to try to be able to do that because there's such a wide box in that situation for you to be able to have so many different things get thrown into it. But a lot of times is that, you're going to have a sit down conversation with them and sit back and say, hey, look, here's the standard. Here's what's going to be allowed, what's not going to be allowed. A lot of times I think you got to be able to put disciplines into place, make sure that there's structures, and making sure that you understand that they only have so many times with that. That you try to speak life into them also too. I think a lot of times a lot of players have undisciplined actions to them just because they've never been told to be able to speak confidence into that player. Okay. And a lot of times also too, I think it's important that that a lot of players have never dealt with structure prior to them getting to where you're at, whether that's at home or their other universities, other schools, or their AAU teams or high school teams, et cetera, or whatever that it may be. A lot of times you get a really talented player just be able to kind of go do because he's so talented. A coach on a lean onto that for wins instead of understanding that that's hurting them. And then when you put into a standard situation where a player can't do that, then it looks like you're punishing them, and you're really not. You're helping them become a pro. Sure. And helping them become a professional outside of basketball, not just through basketball.
Awesome. Tim, what about yourself? I'm sure you've come across athletes, tremendous amount of talent, uncoachable. Mm-hmm. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, what you don't want to do, especially as the head coach, is spend more time on them than you do the guys that are coachable. And I think that happens within every program, every coach. You get stuck. You're more worried about the guys that are uncoachable at times. And that's when your team suffers. And I think, we've had guys, and I'm thinking of a guy, I won't say who he is, but he was very uncoachable. He did a lot of things. But the other thing was our players, we had such a good culture that they made it to where they held them accountable, where they would go at them and they would talk to them. And I mean, it wasn't always talking. Every once in a while, there'd be a little fisticuffs to handle that when they were being uncoachable and them talking to them. And the one thing we did too, our head coach, we told him, you don't deal with it. We're the assistants. We've got it. And we took care of that young man. And I'll be honest, he helped us win NCAA tournament games. And now he's a guy who's playing pro ball, and he calls me and he's like, Coach, man, the discipline that you all helped instill in me. And this was a guy who was he was 22, 23 years old. We had him for, 8 months, and we instilled the discipline that he needed. And now he's like, Coach, all these things have helped me professionally. And he's like, I'm glad it took me a while, but I'm glad I got it.
That's awesome.
And then there's other guys, when they become uncoachable, they become unemployable. So guess what? We let them go.
Yeah.
And you just don't waste your time with the program. We've had guys during the season, we've told them, hey, I think it's best at semester you go home. We're not going to deal with this. And our team went on and won championships when that happened.
That's remarkable. It's so sad. It's so sad. One of the things that Aaron and I always talk about, one of the things I admire the most about coaches is you have the ability to make or break a young man or young woman's career or future. The questions are already coming in. We're already in the 30s. This first question is for you, Chip. I've got a parent who texts me after every great game. This is a high school coach. I have a parent who texts me after every game, win or lose, with a list of why their kid didn't get enough playing time or touches. I've tried being polite. I've tried being direct. I've tried ignoring it. Nothing works. At this point, do I tell them back off? And how do I do this without making it worse? I don't want to affect my daughter's playing time.
Well, I mean, I'll start off by saying in all the years I've been coaching, I've been very fortunate with the parents of my players. But I don't deal with the conversations about playing time. I'm a college coach. They're adults. I'm not having a parent call me because their 19 or 20-year-old daughter is not getting enough playing time. It's a conversation that I have with the players. It's a conversation that they understand why maybe their playing time is down or not where they would like it to be. But I'm not having playing time conversations with parents of adults. I'm just not doing it. But I have, I coached high school for a long time, and I've had those conversations, and I'm, I guess, brutally honest at times, but they're not with their kids in practice every day either.
Right.
and they don't get to see what their child is doing for the 2 hours that they're in practice every day, and what they look like when we're doing strength and conditioning, and are they working, what are they doing at study hall? Are they on their phone, or are they doing their work? Like they just don't understand like every little nuance that goes into preparing for a game. And I mean, it's like I said, when I've had those conversations when I've coached high school. There's no way I would deal with a parent texting me every game after every game. We'd have that conversation real fast. That's not going to fly.
Yeah. Yep. Tim, this one's for you. I've got an assistant coach who's a great recruiter and knows the game, but he's a terrible example for the players. He makes excuses, talks behind other people's backs. I've addressed it privately, but nothing seems to change. At what point do I remove someone who's hurting the culture, even if it's good, even if they're great at their job?
Yeah, I mean, I know he's saying he's great at certain parts of his job, but he's not great at his job, because if he's hurting your culture, he's bad for your job. I don't care how, because if he brings the kids in, they're going to become what he is.
Right.
I mean, I would think for me, if I'm a head coach, if I'm any employer, after I've already spoken to him once and it doesn't change, then there has to be a change, and wish him nothing but the best. And hey, it is personal. Everyone else says it's just business, not personal. No, it's both. But you just have to let them know this isn't what we want here. This isn't what I want here. I've asked you multiple times, and I think you just have to cut bait and move on and get someone in there that is about the right things. Because if you have someone in there, the assistants are with the players way more than the head coach.
Yeah.
And you have to have assistants that are sending the same exact messages that head coach. And obviously, I was an assistant for 24 years, and I learned that. And I grew up in a military family, and it was about loyalty and doing the right things in the chain of command. So if
Sure.
they can't do that, I think you have to cut bait and move on.
Got it. Preston, this is for you. This is a first-year head coach. I just took over a program that's been a mess for years. The culture's toxic. Kids blame each other, make excuses, quit when it gets hard. The previous coach let it happen. I'm trying to set the new standard, but I'm getting massive pushback from players and parents who liked it the old way. How do I rebuild culture when everyone's fighting you on it?
Man, that's probably the biggest question that's been put on the task board so far, because of the fact that there's a lot of different things that goes involved with that. It's not just the players. It's kind of like the old Coach Carter movie. You got to be able to come in and you got to really kind of set down the law of what it's going to be. But because of that, you also got to go back and look at what is the administration going to allow you to do or not allow you to do. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what it's going to be. It's going to be what the administration is going to allow you to be able to get done and not allow you to get done. Whether or not they're going to give you time to be able to change the culture, or if they're expecting results that are just not real. And if they're fabricated results or fabricated thought processes, I was just in that scenario. Like, you're not going to be able to go unless everybody's on the exact same page and the exact same board. You've got to be able to cut fat the way that you need to cut fat. And meaning the fact that if you have these undisciplined players or undisciplined staff, you've got to let it go, because if not, then you're just fighting a fight to be able to actually try to hold on instead of actually maneuvering the room the way that it needs to move. And I think that's the hardest thing about that is you're coming in and you're setting it in. You can try to come in, you're trying to earn trust. I do think there's 4 things in life that I think that is true. You have to have a value, you have to have trust, you have to have a belief, and you have to have an application. Like, I think those 4 things are true in life. And those are 4 things that I try to instill into our team. But the value piece is the biggest part of this thing, is that how much is somebody going to be able to value the value of what it is you're instilling, why you're doing it, and then is everybody else around you the exact same? The question that just got presented to Tim is the exact same thing. I think is the bigger problem, is that if you have a disloyal staff member on your staff, you can cut up everything else, because nothing is going to get involved. Like, there's nothing that's going to get accomplished on anything, because of the fact that now the player seems to think that he can go to him to be able to get something done. And then there's a different deal. Well, hey, don't worry about what coach is talking about. You stay aggressive. But if coaches want something totally different, it's the surrounding pot of everything. And that's why I say is that you can come in and be the brilliance mind in there, first-year head coach coming in there, and you're overstepping that thing. But you got to get administration to understand what it's going to take, making sure that they're on board and understand what that's going to be. You got to make sure that you hire a staff that's going to be loyal. and that they understand the values of what you're going to be and how you're going to want those to be. And that when it's in the foxhole mud, that they're going to push the right scenario and right message. And then you got to get the wrong players off the bus and get the right players on the bus. And then it's your job as the head coach to make sure you put the right players in the right seats to make sure that the culture then is creating the standard, and the standard is the value, and the value is making the bus go forward. But that takes time because of the way that it is. Now, everybody can sit back and say that the way the transfer portal is right now, that's going to be a hit miss.
Yeah,
It can either hurt or miss on that part. So I think there's a lot of different factors that go into that.
for sure, for sure. Chip, this is for you. I love coaching, but the job has changed. It used to be about teaching kids. Now it's about managing parents, navigating social media, dealing with the transfer and NIL, transfer portal and NIL, and all the other stuff that has nothing to do with the game. I'm tired. There's a new landscape of basketball. How have you managed these obstacles?
Well, I mean, fortunately for me at the JUCO level, I don't really deal with the NIL part of it, and I'm very thankful for that. But I mean, as far as the other part of it, I mean, it is changing. There's a lot more responsibility on the coach. You know, the social media aspect. I mean, that's really where everybody publicizes themselves nowadays. You know, every high school athlete is all over social media. I mean, and I think as a head coach, you have to have patience with that stuff. You have to kind of navigate it as best as you can to make sure that, you know, you can utilize it in a positive way. You know, I mean, there's a lot of negative out there for these kids, but a lot of it is pushed on them. They're told to be doing this and doing that, you know, and I mean, I think there's just so much going on. And I mean, and, you know, Tim can probably attest to, you know, coaching in a, you know, major conference at the D1 level, between the portal and NIL and everything else, it's makes your head spin as a coach, trying to, you know, really make everything go in the direction you want it to. And your roster changes so often when you're dealing with kids jumping in the portal all the time. So, you know, it really is. I mean, honestly, I feel blessed that I'm at the level I'm at, that, you know, I don't have to deal with the financial aspect of it. Because I know none of my kids are getting any money. So, you know, that I mean, that's kind of stinks for them, but it's, you know, from a coach's standpoint, it's one less thing that I have to worry about.
Sure. Tim, you coached Ja Morant and then left coaching. That had to be hard. You were at the top of your game. What made you decide to step away, and do you regret it?
Yeah, you know, there was a couple factors, because welcome to Louisiana, where the governor is very involved in the hiring and firing processes, and everyone's read about that in the past couple months. Well, our governor wanted Will Wade back last year and not this year from McNeese State, and then I'll just say the president now is from there, and I mean, it's just, you know, it's coincidences that happen, and because there were some changes made, and I was one of those because my contract ended at the end of June. So it was just the low-hanging fruit. And so I had a chance to stay in coaching. I had interviewed for some head jobs. I had interviewed for some assistant spots. And I had been thinking about it, honestly, for years, even before NIL. In 2018, I interviewed with Stryker Medical and almost got out then, to where it was a chance for me. I have a 10 and a 13-year-old daughter now that are in 7th and 4th grade. And it became a choice of moving around, which they'd already moved, you know, into 3-4 different states and different cities. And they had started to get really comfortable. We loved it here. And I decided to use, and I was fortunate enough, for me, one of the boosters who I met in the first week on the job, and I always did a great job of interacting and becoming friends with the boosters. It wasn't about needing anything. And I ended up getting a job outside of coaching with him, and that's why I got the job. I do not regret it one bit. I have weekends. I went on vacation. Man, no one called me. I mean, I emailed just a few things, some POs I needed to get done, but I don't regret it at all. I get time with my wife, which I never had. We had a honeymoon for 11 days, which 4 of those were weekends when we did our honeymoon. So I got to count 11 days. That's the most time I'd ever been away from coaching in my 24 years.
Wow.
And now I can spend time with my family. And today I got to take them to the pool and hang out with them and make ice cream with them. So I'll take that over the coaching stuff, especially the way I know, we've talked about the NIL and where it's changed and the portal, and they just jump in and jump out, which I'm not mad at them. If you were going to pay me, which some of these kids are making millions.
Yeah.
And they were making 300,000 or 200,000. Someone says, "Hey, we'll give you 2 million or 1 million." Guess what? I'd leave my job too. We all would. And so, that changed to where you don't have the relationship you used to
Right.
with these young people. And that's the only reason I got into coaching, was that I had a coach who invested in me, and I really wanted to give back to the game that gave so much to me and to my life.
Yep. That's awesome. Well, look, there you go. No regrets. Chip, this one's for you. I'm watching my head coach. He's an assistant coach. I'm watching my head coach burn out in real time. He's been at this for 25 years, and he's exhausted physically, emotionally, and mentally, but it doesn't know how to stop because coaching is all he knows. How do you help someone transition out when they're too deep in to see what they need to do?
Well, I've been doing this for 37 years, and I love it every day. I like to know what vacation is like, so I have to talk to Tim about that. But I love what I do, but it can get to you. You go every day. There's really no days off. Even when you're off, you're not off. It's a 12-month, 7-day-a-week job, and I get it. As an assistant coach, when I was an assistant coach, I worked for a head coach that definitely looked like his head was going to pop every day. He looked like he was getting burned out, and everything just got to him. And it does. When you get to a point where, you've been doing it for a lot of years, and, you get older. Preston and Tim, they're not even close to my age, but when you get older and you've been doing it a long time, if you allow it to really eat you, it will, but like one of the things Tim said is the relationships that I've had with my players over the years, that's what keeps me going. Getting phone calls from them and getting to see what they're doing now, years later after I've coached them, is amazing. And, my best advice to that assistant coach is to help their head coach as best as they can, try to take a little bit off their plate. Although I know as a head coach, your finger's on the pulse of everything. So, but having good assistants around you that can help you with those things make your job a lot easier.
Sure. Preston, this is for you. If you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing about the environment around youth and high school sports, what would it be? Because right now it feels broken in every level. Parents, administration, social media, club teams, recruiting. Where do I even start?
I think honesty and at least loyalty to relationships still, of thankfulness. I think a lot of times that a lot of people get into this thing and then they just, right now, I feel like the wave of it is, and this one thing, kind of going back to what these guys talked about, like you get in this thing I remember, I started coaching. I became guardian of a kid in 5th grade when I was 22, 23 years old. And I started thinking about it was a relationship driven deal. It was about seeing the growth and giving back into the deal, and making sure that you're staying truthful into that. And if I was there to wave a wand, it's kind of hard because right now, Tim kind of talked about the exact same thing here, right? Like, you give a kid a couple $1 million. Who's not going to take that? That's
right.
That's changing. But I would be the first one on that boat. If I could go back 30 years as a player, I think I'm hopping on that boat myself. You know what I mean? And saying, hey, I haven't seen the mountains before. Let me take the trip to Colorado and get paid, and let me go down to South Beach and then let me finish down in Texas. I have no problem in doing that. But I think a lot of times what gets lost in the deal is the professionalism of thankfulness and just being thankful for the opportunity that you actually have it. And for those that are actually around you, sometimes now in the environment that it is now, you sometimes now get a phone call back where, 10 years ago, you always got a phone call back. like 10 years now ahead, it's sometimes, hey, I appreciate that. Sometimes it's, hey, like you got to remind a kid now, hey, push in the chairs when you leave a restaurant, or hey, make sure you open the door up and hold the door for somebody else. Just having a thankfulness to that. To me, I think that's where I've struggled a lot of times in today's game is just the thankfulness of them actually acknowledging you as coach and not just by Preston or hey P or hey Tim or hey Chip. There's too many players now that's the thing. And we're back when Rob was coming up, that was like, no, that's coach. You're like, that's coach. There's a certain responsibility, respectful authority figure person in front of you that is giving you a chance to be able to get that out. Like I'm a walking 1% guy. Like, if it wasn't for a handful of coaches in my life, I wouldn't be in the position that I've ever been in. And I'm so thankful for those guys. I give credit back to those 5 guys all the time. And there's not even big time name guys. Like, I've been around some big time name guys, but like guys that like people would never know about outside of maybe Rodney Perry that's been at K-State and been around. But like, Mike Mallow, Steve Shepard, Dick Rippey, Steve Jenkins, like a lot of people are not going to know those guys. And those guys were the most influential people that's been in my life that I think back to, that I go, there was honesty, there was a relationship piece in there, and there was truthfulness, of thankfulness into that. And so if I could wave a wand, it's that. It's not about what can you give me so I can get what it is that I need, but it's what can I learn from you to be able to give to me so I can give to somebody else. And that's why we all got into coaching, is so that we can give to somebody else and be a servant. I've always said that my job, the day that I lose the ability to be a servant, is the day that I need to walk away.
Yeah.
And I need to be a servant. And that's been my calling all my life as coaches. We don't do it for money, but it's every once in a while, maybe you get to a certain point, you can make enough, but like that's very slim and far between. It's ability to be serving and to be able to give and be able to provide back to those that needed it, of what we got or what we didn't get.
Do we lose you?
No, I'm still here.
Got it.
Yep.
Got it. Okay, cool. Yep. Tim, I'm a 24-year-old first-year coach. My goal, I play D2 basketball. I'm everything basketball. My goal was to make it to the NBA as a player, and now I realize it's in the coaching fashion. So I'm a high school coach. I want to go to the college level and end at the NBA. I hear you talking about holding the standard, but what does that actually look like in practice? What are some non-negotiables, and what's the line that you won't cross? Because I need concrete examples I can take back to my program this week.
Yeah, so he's a high school coach, correct? Wants to go to the NBA, and he wants to know what standards for himself or for his program.
For his
'Cause
program.
that's the only thing for his program. I mean, I think the biggest number one is honesty. You have to have honesty within your program. If you don't have that, there's nothing. There's no trust. There is nothing. There has to be honesty, and sometimes it has to be. And here's the thing: conflict is not a bad thing. I think too many times nowadays, when you say conflict, even people like, ooh, you can't say that word. Like you have to be all soft about it. No, conflict's a good thing, because when you have that conflict, you meet on head to head and you figure out what the issue is, and then you communicate. So you've got that honesty, and then you have to communicate after that. And you have to be honest with the parents, because you're coaching high school, and you have to be talking to the administration. I mean, I think we've heard it how many times that the administration and the coaching staff have to be on the same exact same page, because if you're not, it's not going to work. I think that honesty, and I think that is the one thing you have to have. And I think Preston was talking about the whole time is gratefulness. The one thing I kept thinking of, if you could add something, was gratefulness. If I get rid of something, it would be entitlement. And I think you need to make sure that program, those kids, those parents realize, like, you're not entitled to this. None of us are. I think that's the thing that's been lost in society. Everyone thinks they're entitled because they got their phone and they think they're famous. Like, cool, you're on whatever podcast, you're on this. No, you're a human being who's a part of this right here. You're part of a bigger team, and joining those kids and making them realize that a lot of times in life, you're not a part of a team. You are in high school, and you get to build and become something out of that. And when they get to the workforce, which I'm lucky enough, I work at a great company now where we have a team. And the one thing, I have a former baseball player who won a national championship, he was All-American, did not go to the major leagues, but great team guy. And he and I do not care if he gets a bid, cool. we're happy the team got it. But
Yep.
we both grew up that way and we went through sports, and that's what made us better. And that's why our bosses really enjoy us having us around, and they want us to be around for a long time. And I think parents, we get so lost in this, oh, being a pro, being a professional. Like, no, you need them to be a pro in life.
Yeah.
That's what you need. This is what sports is about. This is what it taught me. It taught me how to fail. It taught me how to succeed. And when I did succeed, sometimes I wasn't humble. Well, it humbled my tail real quick. And it will as a coach. Every coach has been humbled real quick. We think we're good. And then all of a sudden you get smacked in the face by something that you did not expect, whether that's losing to a team you should have beat, or just something happens within your program, maybe in an injury that you didn't expect. So I think those are the things I think for these parents, they have to realize, like, these sports are making your kids great human beings.
Right.
And they need to use that as more than just sending an email or text saying, why didn't they play and all that stuff. Like, you're setting your kid up for failure. Like, I hope your kid succeeds, but man, I'll be honest. I'm in my career. If you're a parent doing that, I do not want to hire your tail ever. And I don't want you on my team if I'm coaching.
Got it. Got it. Chip, you have over 700 wins and decades of experience. What's the one thing you've learned about building an environment that you wish you had known when you first got started?
I mean, back when I had hair.
Hey,
Amen, brother.
hey.
Amen, man.
Preston and I
Amen, man.
take offense to that.
You see what's shine for.
Don't laugh, Tim, because you got all yours. That's right. See?
You got out early enough, man.
Oh man. Nah, I mean, honestly, I think, when I first got into coaching, I was young. I was 24 years old and cocky and thought, I knew more than I did. And I learned pretty quick that I didn't. And I think, like, one of the things I would say to any young coach is you never stop learning. Constantly you grow as a coach. It doesn't matter if you've been doing it for 2 years or 20 years. It doesn't matter. I mean, you're constantly learning, growing, getting better. Because if you don't, you're not doing anything for your players either. You need to make sure that you're growing as a coach so you can help them grow as young adults, and as athletes. So,
Right.
I mean, I think, for young coaches, just, never stop learning. Keep pushing yourself in the right direction, but remember why you're doing it, right? Both Tim, Preston have mentioned it, but we don't do this for ourselves. We do it for those kids, and that's the most important thing. So if we keep growing as coaches, then we're going to be able to help them grow as well.
Perfect. Preston, you said adults are the environment, but what about when the adults, the parents, administrators, even other coaches refuse to change? How do you create a healthy environment when the surrounding area has obstacles?
Well, I think it's really it's not necessarily, what the environment is the expectations of the environment.
Okay.
Like, I think that a lot of times that, like, if you've got, like, instead of, if you don't handle it right, instead of coaching, all you're doing then is just managing noise. Like, you're managing noise instead of actually doing the surroundings of what it is that you need to be to do, and making sure that it needs to be. You don't want a player looking over his shoulder left or right. Like, if you're telling a player one thing and then he turns around and looks at the crowd to get a different message, like, like, you want to make sure that you're not managing just noise, but you're understanding what it needs to be, where you're not having a conversation vicariously through the player to the parent, right? Like, I've seen a lot of coaches, they'll say something loud enough to the player, but is really saying it to the crowd to get the crowd to understand what it is that I need the player to do, right? And I think a lot of times is, like, it's what are you going to be to hold the standard to, what the expectation is going to be, and how you wanting to make it, and really what you're going to allow it to be, what you're not going to allow it to be. That's really what it comes down to. Like, I just think that it comes down to it sounds simple as that, but, like, it's the expectations of what you're going to be, the real life scenario of what it's going to be, making sure that you're having that problem with the parent. Like, I said this, Chip said this also too. Like, in my 30 years, I started off as a grassroots guy. coaching grassroots. And I would have a conversation no matter if I was coaching a third grade team or a 18U team. It didn't matter. I'm here to coach my son. I'm not here to coach you. There was one instance where he was a really high successful lawyer, and he was trying to tell me how I needed to do certain things. And so I got dressed up, went to his office prior to he got there. I sat down in his chair before he got there. And as soon as he walked in, he's like, "What are you doing?" And I told his assistant, I said, "Hey, all phone calls come through me. We're making sure we're doing this, this, and this." He was like, "What the heck are you doing?" I said, "You want to tell me how I'm going to do my job? I'm going to tell you how to do your job." And he said, "Fair enough." And I said, "Okay." I think that a lot of times it's the kid learning how to take responsibility, because at some point they're going to have that exact same conversation when they're working for a company or work for a coach or on the sidelines or doing whatever. They got to be to know how to handle their own expectations and how they're going to be to handle that. It's not going to be, it's like what I go back to. It's like, as parents, we say what, but at some point as a young man and young woman, you got to learn how to do the how, why, and where.
Right.
And I think that's what it comes down to, is that you don't want to make sure you're managing people, but not managing noise, because the noise it's too much distraction going on for the room to be able to just falter left or right when you want it to go straight.
Got it. Chip, I'm a Division III basketball coach. I see other coaches, myself included, sometimes we let the best players get away with stuff we bench other players for. Late to practice, he's our best player, we need him. Attitude problem, he'll grow out of it. We say we're teaching accountability, but we're really teaching that talent gets you a pass. How do we actually hold everyone to the same standard when we're desperate to win?
I'm not desperate to do anything. I mean,
That's the show, team. Right there. We're done. You guys have a great rest of your week.
That's the best answer yet.
Look, I'm just saying, I'm a firm believer that you have team rules across the board, but you treat everybody a little different based on their personality, how they handle things. I mean, there are players that need a kick in the butt to get them going in the right direction, and there are some that just need a little more confidence. But I don't care if you're the last player on the bench, the team manager, or you're the best player on the team. If you don't follow the rules, you're not going to play. And it's that simple. I had a player one of my last years in high school. She was my center. She was an high school All-American. She went to NC State, ended up graduating from UTEP, and we went to play in a tournament, and she missed practice the day before. And she sat the first game of the tournament. Second game, she put up 30 points, 19 rebounds, and the coach said to me, "Why would you bench her?" And I said, "She missed practice."
There you go.
He said, "I don't care. She's my best player. She's playing." I said, "Well, that's the difference between you and me." Like, if I lose, guess what? I'm going to go home, and I'm not going to act any differently when I get home than if I won that game. I might have a bigger smile on my face, or a smile on my face, but I'm not going to go home and yell at my kids because I lost the game. That's on me. But I know I did the right thing, because I have to teach those kids life lessons. They need to know that when they go to work, if they do those things, guess what? The next day they don't have a job. So, I take that responsibility serious, and you cannot be afraid to discipline your best players because you're worried about what other people are going to think.
Sure. Tim, I know you're out of the game. I feel like the transfer portal and NIL is changing and actually ruining college basketball. I'm not sure we're going to see another Cinderella or any back-to-backs moving forward, because kids are simply going to transfer or change when they win the championship. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know. For me, NIL, I played Division I. I was hoping I got paid. I got paid nothing. I remember getting tickets to an NBA game and couldn't tell anyone because the booster gave them to me, things like that. So I wish I had all that stuff. But it's the portal is the issue. And obviously Calipari talks about it, where you get a one-time transfer and all that stuff. I think for me, it does need to be regulated. And if I were an employee still at any university and I was a professor, I'd be kind of upset a guy making $7 million, because that's what the quarterback who lives down the street from me makes, QB1 here at LSU. So I know for a fact I'd be upset that guy doesn't have to live the same standards that I have to live at, and of not living, but the standard of, hey, he can fail a drug test and keep on playing. If that professor fails one, guess what? They're probably fired.
Yeah.
So I think those are the things, and I know they're fighting this employee thing, but if you're paying people this kind of money, they have to become an employee and become a collective bargain agreement. And to set this standard, and I've said it before NIL started, is if I'm at, say, I played at Winthrop, if I'm at Winthrop University and I do really well, and South Carolina wants to pay me whatever amount of money, well, there should be a buyout, just like there are for the coaches. And Jay Billis preaches this all day long, and I know Jay, and he preaches it, and it annoys me because the coaches have buyouts. Every coach that left to take another job, they had to do a buyout as well. That's how it needs to be for the players. Because if he says he wants them to be treated the same, I think if you start doing that, then it'll start correcting itself. And then you can see a Winthrop makes a really good player. They had one, I forget where he went. They said he was getting like $800,000. I don't know where he went. I was talking to a coach. Well, then 50 to 100 of that, he has a buyout that goes back to them. Then they can go get a player, and then
Right.
you can start doing it. And then I think then you'll actually get the continuity of the teams. And I know people are like, "Oh, it's ruining college sports." Well, then why'd everyone watch the NCAA tournament if it's ruining it so bad?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's the thing I think people keep talking about, and they get mad about it. But like, players should make some money. They do make money for the school. Should it be what it is right now? I can't say that. I don't dictate the market. But I think you'll get back to, once we get that. I mean, like Michigan right now, I mean, I've known, those guys for a long time, since they were at FAU, and even before that when they were at Louisiana Tech, that, they're doing things the right way and getting the right players. I wouldn't be shocked if they went back to back. I mean, UConn won back to back. It was still NIL, maybe not the biggest numbers right now, but when you're at that top level at Duke, UConn, you can keep those guys. They've got the money to keep them.
Yeah.
Now, seeing the Cinderellas, I think it'll happen every once in a while. But just like you saw Furman almost beat UConn, that point guard and the big man, they were gone in a week after that, those showing that they had. So that is going to happen.
Right. Right. Preston, I'm a two-sport high school. I'm a senior. I'm a two-sport All-American. Kansas is recruiting me for basketball, but they said I cannot play baseball. I have no dreams or aspirations for the NBA or MLB, but I do love playing two sports. I'm thinking about going to D2, but I'm torn because I want to be a Jayhawk as well. What advice would you give me?
Go D2 if you want to play both.
There you go.
I mean, you're not going to do that at Kansas. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to do that to Kansas, and you got to pick the right D2 to be able to go to, because it's going to be hard to do it at Division II. It's still hard to do it at Division II, because there are certain demands that go along with it. I mean, you got to be a special athlete, and it sounds like he's a special athlete if you ever get recruited to be able to do that. I ran track and field at a high level and played college basketball, and I was able to do those, but I did not do those at the exact same time. I did it at two entire different deals. I came into college running college track, and then when I got done tired of running around in a circle, I then went and played basketball and did that. But it's hard to be able to do those two things. I mean, you've got to be a special athlete, but you're not going to be able to do that at Kansas. You're just not going to be able to do that. The demands of what Coach Self is going to have you to do playing basketball at that level, whether you want to be a pro or not, those guys are expecting you to be a pro at Kansas.
Sure. Sure.
That's what the standard is over there, right? Like, if you're going to end up trying to play baseball, it's going to be a situation. You got to pick the right Division II that's going to allow you to be able to do both. You're going to have a tough time doing that in the MIAA. Like, the MIAA is essentially the SEC of Division II.
Right.
You're not going to play both. During the MIAA. I coached in the MIAA. Our basketball guys were basketball guys. Football guys were football guys. You're not going to be. It's going to be a tough time to be able to try to do both things. At some point, I think as an athlete, I think a lot of times in high school, I think it's great to be able to learn those tools and be able to do those type of things in that part. And be a two-sport athlete. When you get to college level, it's a lot of times it's you're going to hone in on one. It's just the way that it is, because the dynamics of everything goes along with it. And if you're at that level, you're also talking about money, and you're talking about the NIL, and you're talking about what it's going to take. And if I'm paying a player I'm expecting the player to be able to do what it is that I need to be able to do at the time I need you to do it. And I don't want to hear a deal that you're going to be going somewhere else because that player is, or that coach is wanting you to do something else with too. I think there's too many other factors in today's game that just not going to allow you to be able to do both of those two things at the exact same time.
Awesome. Well, team, the questions keep coming in. We're already at an hour, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it up with one more question, then I'm going to give each of the coaches a parting shot, and we'll get you guys out of here. Coach Chip, I inherited a program where the previous staff recruited talent but ignored character. Now I've got a locker room full of talented kids with terrible attitudes. I can't cut them all and start over. How do I change the culture when you're stuck with players that don't have one?
Well, I mean, you could cut them all, but
because you're not desperate.
but, right, exactly. But I mean, you've got to start. You've got to gradually start. Where having those conversations with them that this is the way it's going to be, or you're not going to be here. And you're not going to play. I mean, you can't just again, you may have a lot of talented players, but you have to have leadership. And if the coach is not setting that standard, why are the players going to follow? So, right. I mean, they have to do their best to kind of rein everything in and build that culture that those kids will jump on.
Awesome. Team, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let each individual, the questions keep coming in. We have over 75 to 100 years of coaching experience on this panel right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Tim. Then we're going to go to Chip, and then we'll end with Preston. Tim, where could some of these people, whether that's athletes, athletic directors, coaches, get a hold of you if you're open to continuing the conversation?
Yeah, they can get a hold of me. My email address, it's T and then my last name, Kane, 12 at iCloud.com. They can email me anytime. I'm always on my email. I don't care if you hit me on my cell phone. Text me first, because if I don't know you, I'm not answering. That's 912. That's been a rule for a long time, not just coaching and out of coaching. 912-601 4956. And the one thing I love now that I'm out, like I'm helping guys get jobs that I know people in coaching, and I can use my 24 years experience to help other people. And we've talked about it the whole time as a servant leadership.
Yeah.
I spoke to our supervisors who run ExxonMobil, BASF. They're running all these plants, and they're in there doing real work. And we do electrical and instrumentation. And I told them the same thing. I'm a servant leader. That's what I've been as a coach. That's what I'm here for you. And I think I'd love to pass on, whatever information I can help. I don't know if it will help, but the one thing you want to keep giving back to the game that's given so much to us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Handing out the cell number, Chip. You feel like doing that, or they could just get a hold of you either through a website or your email?
The last time I was going to give my cell number out, you almost fell out of your chair. So, but no, I mean, my email is my first initial last name at Camden, CAMDENCC.edu. And yes, my cell number is 267-872-0469. Yeah, I'm always willing to answer questions, help wherever I can. Like Tim said, giving back is a big part of what we do. And, I love talking the game. I love talking sports. I'll talk about anything. So, I mean, feel free to email me, text me. You can call, but I'm going to go with Tim's rule. Text me first. And then I'm more than happy to help wherever I can.
Awesome. Preston, where can people get a hold of you? Your information is invaluable.
Yeah, you can email me at PrestonI21@gmail.com. And you can call me. You can call me. I look, man. Hey, Tim, I tried that for the longest time, but I'm an old school guy. I hate texting. I can't stand it. I much rather just call. Just tell me what you need to know, and we'll get right to it. But my cell is 417-209-6171. And again, you can call me, text me, send me a pigeon, either one, man. I said this early. I I've gotten this thing early on as to be a servant, and I stay true to that. You know, whether I'm not coaching right now or not, servant leadership is servant leadership at the end of the day. And I think, you know, the guys that do it right do it for that, is to serve, help young guys or help even the older guys maybe to go through the process of what it needs to be. You know, we've all got good stories. We also all got battle wound stories of bad times, and I've got a handful of those. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So whatever way that it is, please, by all means, call me and text me. As long as we've been in the game, I think we've all, as coaches, Tim and Chip, myself, we've all received a phone call at 3 a.m. at some point. Just don't call at 3 a.m.
I'm done with those three.
I'm
Same
done
here.
with
I'm
those
done with them.
days.
More than I'd like to admit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, this is
Yeah.
awesome, team. Coaches, thank you so much. You cannot call me, but you can call Aaron. I'm on the
And my phone number is 303-748.
Are you serious? Okay.
Reach out. And
Awesome.
if you've forgotten their number, I have all of theirs so I can.
We're going to get a big WhatsApp text. My number is 867-5309. My name is Jenny, if you need to get a hold of me. Coaches, listen, you guys could have been 100 other places on a Sunday night. One of the things, Tim, I'm going to piggyback on you, is to be of service. All kidding aside, one of the things Aaron and I really like to do is we just want to make sure that these young individuals, the families and coaches, they may not work with us, but as long as they have enough information to make a right decision, that's where we've done a great job. So, coaches, thanks so much. Aaron, I can't thank you enough for putting this on. And all of you are going to get phone calls tonight except me. I'm going to sleep soundly. Everyone.
I'm getting a text first, then we'll call.
In the comments.
Tim, Chip,
Mhm.
Preston, Aaron, I can't thank you guys enough for taking the time to meet with us. Aaron's going to drop things in the show notes for you as far as phone numbers and how to get a hold of these coaches so you could further your career, or maybe you just have some questions. Everybody have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.